The following video contains spoilers for Ms. Marvel and assumes that you've seen the entire show. Stick the landing, stick the landing. I sure hope this Marvel Disney Plus show sticks the landing. Time and again, we've seen Marvel shows on Disney Plus open in ways that grab audiences and promise a deftly told story, only for their eventual finales to fumble the bag in some way and turn out incredibly divisive. Even as someone who ultimately likes the endings of shows like WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Loki, even I can't deny that those final episodes, alongside those of What If, Moon Knight, and Hawkeye, are kind of a tough chew. Not entirely satisfying in the way that a final episode should be. Ms. Marvel, by comparison, is actually a really nice change of pace, and I want to get into why I think that is. I could, conceivably, do a video about this show holistically, but framing that discussion through the final episode is honestly just the easiest way for me to talk about it. In the process of writing this video, I ran into a nice series of TikToks by @McCraex, which highlights the insane concurrent filming schedules of all these shows, and how having Loki, WandaVision, Hawkeye, and the rest all being written and shot at around the same time means that none of these shows were given the opportunity to absorb any audience feedback, leaving a ton of very different series making a lot of the same mistakes. With that in mind, it's a miracle that Ms. Marvel got to end on as strong a note as it does. The final episode, titled No Normal, is structurally and thematically the most consistent and well put together of the Disney Plus finales. Not necessarily as emotionally impactful as some of the other endings, but easily the most satisfying as both a conclusion to the story and a solid 45 minutes of TV. And I think it does this mainly by addressing the villain problem and how that relates to the scale of the show. In a collection of series rife with less than stellar villains, Ms. Marvel has easily the worst bad guys in a Marvel property since Dark Phoenix. The clandestine, Najma in particular, somehow managed the miraculous feat of being less interesting and well-defined than Malekith the Accursed. And one of the biggest things in the final episode's favor is that they're not in it. This is both in the sense that they suck, and in the sense that without them and their lore soaking any attention, No Normal gets to focus on all of the aspects of the show that work, and manages to make much more functional and appropriate bad guys out of the Department of Damage Control. Kamala's family and friends make a truly wonderful supporting cast, and as we get to know and become endeared to this community around her, we get invested in the idea of Kamala as a small-scale, everyman superhero, without the show ever having to come out and mention that in the text in a way that something like Spider-Man Homecoming does. This is why the more grounded and relatable threat of government enforcers led by the slyly bigoted Agent Deaver make for a much better final antagonist than the extremely alien clandestine, whose presence balloons the stakes to an interdimensional global conflict. Even if Kamala has a familial connection to the clandestine, there's nothing about the struggle to save the whole world that feels unique or personal to her the way that it does to see establishment thugs encroaching on her friends' homes and place of business, her place of worship, or her school. This is incidentally why the clandestine were at their most interesting and fun in episode 3. Despite still not being very well written in that episode, they represented a clear and present danger to Kamala's community, and we are more worried about them ruining a wedding than we are them paving the world over. Episodes 4 and 5 of this show were far from terrible, but in focusing on the clandestine conflict, Kamala was increasingly isolated from her supporting cast, sans her mother and grandmother. Conversely, pretty much every beat of the final episode zeroes in on Kamala's inner circle, and how they relate to her and each other. The importance of these relationships is reflected in how Kamala's friends and family all have a hand in slowly building her superhero identity, from the outfit to her codename, and the other benefit of the conflict being so small and grounded is that these relationships are given ample room to breathe. This is in contrast to the finale of Loki, which feels like nearly 40 unbroken minutes of info dumping, and the finales of every other show, which feel basically like unbroken episode-length action scenes. Outside of the very final moments where we spend maybe a minute each teasing mutants and Carol Danvers, there's no time taken out of No Normal for exposition dumps or laying groundwork for follow-ups. There's not even really that much action, and what action there is all informed by character. Specifically, the dichotomy of Kamala and Kamran, and Kamala coming out of beta testing as the hero her community needs. Outside of that, the rest of the episode is systematically displaying through her parents, her brother, her Sheik, Bruno, Nakia, Zoe, and even Red Dagger, how the people and connections that Kamala has helped and fostered over the course of the show help make her a better hero. It's an extremely fitting, appropriate, and well-earned end to the Kamala Khan origin story. There was a lot of pessimism going into Ms. Marvel, at least from comics fans, and a lot's been done with the show that those hardcore fans are likely to always be peeved with. But I really like where this series ended up, and I'm glad to see that these things aren't doomed to end in a kind of questionable manner. But those are just my thoughts. If you saw Ms. Marvel all the way through to the end, what did you think about the final episode and how it compares to those of other shows? Leave a like and subscribe if you liked what I had to say here, and I'll see you in the future. Thanks for watching.